Ready up?
I'm ready.
All right.
All right, welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco Delatorre. With me today, I got Joey as the co-host, and we're joined with John Onsa. This is round 2 at the Heights.
Yes.
How's it going?
God, I'm so happy I'm back.
Yes, sir. Yeah, first returning guest in the podcast history.
I'm really just flattered and honored all at the same time. I really appreciate it. It's great to be back. There's been so much activity since the last time we talked. Last time we spoke, we were actually closed, and we were talking a lot about the effects of the pandemic. And we've had a summer and a fall, and now entering into winter since we've talked. So there's been so much, and so much has happened at our hotel, and then also in the city of Toledo. So it's been great. So thanks for having me back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it was weird because last time we talked, like, what was it, May? It was getting to the point in Toledo where things were looking like they were going to start opening up, and now we're approaching 21 at this point, and a lot of things have changed. We had some guesses about what was going to happen during the pandemic, but none of us really knew.
Yep.
That's true. It's a really good point.
So what would you say when back in May, when you thought about reopening and you knew that there were going to be some regulations in place, what do you think was one prediction that you got right about the pandemic and one that you got wrong?
Francis, that's a good question. I think one thing that I got right was that there was going to be a huge necessity for sanitation. I knew that if restaurants were going to reopen, like restaurants and gyms I put in the same category, there was going to have to be intense around the clock sanitation. So as far as hand washing stations and static spraying and using disposable menus and disposable cups, and I even put in 6-foot distancing. I didn't know it would be 6 feet, but I knew there was going to be, like, they were going to turn restaurants into basically like a sanitation bubble. And we've done that. Now it's kind of the norm, but that was something that I definitely mentally prepared myself for. I think some of the other ones, I may have been off on, but I definitely felt like, man, I nailed that sanitation.
For sure.
Yeah. So throughout this past 6-8 months, have you guys seen, how has your business been? How has it been? As many people coming out?
I'll be honest with you. I think we had an incredible reopening, and I know a lot of businesses weren't as fortunate and weren't as lucky. I think I said with you guys last time is that the business of restaurants is a lot of times about real estate. It's where you are, and if you look at where we are, we're on the 12th floor in the rooftop of a beautiful boutique style hotel that has this amazing rooftop that has panoramic views, 365 panoramic views of the city. So with outdoor seating. So I think when we reopened, people naturally are going to gravitate here because it's an incredible experience inside Toledo. So we were incredibly successful. We lost half of our seating because of the 6-foot distancing. We had to make some changes, but the top line revenue we brought in was extraordinary. We had an incredible summer, a great fall, and we're even having a good winter. And when I say that, are we at half our budget? Yeah, but we're so successful for where we should be, to be honest with you.
And how much of that do you think plays into the hotel aspect of it instead of it just being a restaurant?
I think that the hotel definitely helps a lot when you have sleeping rooms. You have 246 sleeping rooms below your restaurant. That really helps. But I also can say that we had a lot of social guests that were non-hotel guests. Like, our occupancy levels are down. I won't even give you the percent because it's hard, it's a tough number to even talk about. But we had a lot of just social public guests that came in. So I think it does help when you sit on top of the hotel because it's a landmark. It's the Toledo Renaissance. But people came up here. We had a lot of people come up here not knowing we even were a hotel. They just knew that the Heights. They thought we were just, oh, you're just a restaurant. You know what I mean? We're just coming up to the restaurant. Oh no, you just passed 247 rooms, so you can stay in those rooms. So we did educate some people, but I think because of what this space is and where it sits and it's the experience it gives, people just want to come here. Regardless,
for sure, people just thought there was nothing in the first 10 stories.
Well, we're sitting next to the Fifth Third building, and you think how many of those floors are vacant? There's a tremendous amount of them vacant, but so there is something on top. I know there is something on top of that building, but there's a lot of vacants in there. So they maybe thought it was similar to Fifth Third.
Oh no,
that's fair. Yeah.
So speaking of some of the restaurants here, I believe you guys had one downstairs as well. Is that one still going?
We did, yeah. We had that's called the Brim House, and unfortunately, we did not reopen that. And I think the decision behind that was that menu is definitely a little bit more leans towards fine dining, And this one obviously is a little bit more polished casual. So we knew that we could facilitate the staff, we could facilitate the food costs, we could facilitate the beverage costs, much better up here. And that to run a fine dining restaurant, that takes a lot of labor, that takes a higher food cost, takes a higher beverage cost. It's a lot more of an undertaking. And we knew that we needed to bring back revenue as quick as we could. And we also wanted to get people out here and get people relaxed and back to eating and drinking and taking in the hotel. And we knew that the Heights offers that experience. It's that quick or that fast casual experience where people can just come in and just immediately get sat and eat and drink and socialize. And, it was something we thought, hey, it's going to be great PR for us as well, too, to get this place open. It made more sense to have it open. And especially with an outdoor patio like the one we have. You're sitting on a rooftop bar. It's going to create positive vibes. That's what we wanted.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked a little bit about social media right before this and how you can use it as your personal life, or you can use it for brand awareness, or you can try to sell on your social media.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that coming from a position where you can make authoritative decisions about a company?
In regards to selling social media or just in social
just
media?
Marketing yourself, brand awareness, how important do you think that is?
I mean, in 2020, heading in 2021, it's paramount. You have to have a social media presence. I think now I don't know the direct analytics between our social media and the revenue, but I know there is a correlation. There's a strong correlation because I can tell from when we post things. Like for instance, we post a new to-go menu, and then 25 minutes later, I see 7 orders come through on my email notification. I know that's because of the social media post, because that's the only channel that we've posted it out there. So I think you have to have that. I think people are looking for instantaneous information. People's attention spans are very small. So we just posted a video that was brochure that was 6 minutes long, and people were like, "Oh, it was really good. And it was really long." You know what I mean? People now, 6 minutes is like a long video. People are expecting everything in 30 seconds. So I think that you have to have that presence. You have to keep people, updated with what you're doing. You have to, Instagram is one we use a tremendous amount. I love Instagram as a platform. I think that people are visual learners, and I think people want to see those visuals. So we post a tremendous amount on that. We give a lot of updates on Instagram, and it's just easy for people to click on and find out what's going on at the Heights, and then and click off. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny that people know it's 6 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
That's ridiculous.
I know. Used to, and I watched all 6 minutes of it. We had this great video that we just did with Tim McMahon from 41 Nosh for Buckeye News. And I thought it was great, but some people can only last 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you got TikTok, which is I think
under
30,
a minute,
30
15 seconds or a minute, I believe. Yeah, so it's quick,
and that's been blowing up. So
yeah. TikTok is, we won't get into TikTok. That's not something I will see us get into.
Yeah.
We'll stay with Instagram and Facebook.
But kind of going off what you said, right now, especially too, when you look at a lot of restaurants, you search them online, you're I don't know if they're open for sure. And then you gravitate towards the social media. And if they don't have posts saying, oh, this is our new menu, this is when we're open, sometimes you're well, I don't know enough, so I'm probably going to go somewhere else.
It's a really good point, Joey. I mean, I was just searching my restaurants. I tried to search my restaurants, once a week and see. And I noticed that our downstairs restaurant, it didn't say that it did say we were closed, but when you first looked at it, it said that no reservations were available for the next 2.5 hours. And I immediately went on and said, well, how do I get that to say closed when someone, and I was typing in the Heights and it said suggested restaurants, and my second restaurant was suggested. And the first word wasn't closed. And I thought, well, I need to get on there and try to get that to say closed. Now, it is closed, but, you're constantly trying to look and see how you can get that message out as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. So, because we've had some customers call sometimes and say, hey, it doesn't say you're closed. It just says that you didn't have reservations available. It should say you're closed. People want to know things immediately. And there's a lot of platforms that you have to get on. When we make a decision on changing hours, we have to get on the Facebook, we get on the website, we get on the Instagram, we get on, any of our QR codes. So there's a lot of areas that you have a checklist that you need to hit, because people use so many different ways to get their information now.
That is the worst, though, is when you go on and you look up a website, or you look up you search restaurants near me or something, and it doesn't say closed, and then even worse is if you actually want to go there and it's closed. Or many times too is the bread pudding yesterday.
Oh, just not there.
I know.
I won't name the restaurant, but yeah. we went to a place and they had no bread pudding, and we were extremely sad.
You guys love bread pudding.
Oh, we do.
This guy does.
You
dirty.
seek out restaurants for bread pudding?
I mean, I don't know if we like seek it out specifically, but if we go to a restaurant and it's there, I'm gonna get it probably 10 out of 10 times. We've actually Dirty Bird right downtown. That great. Like theirs is they have maple bacon and some type of chocolate one. Both phenomenal. And then Old Bag of Nails has a bread pudding. Theirs is like more of what you'd expect like a homemade bread pudding to be.
Oh, okay.
And Dirty Birds is like deep fried, so it's insane, but like they're kind of like different to compare.
That's great.
But those are like the two best in town, in my opinion.
Wow.
So,
okay, bread.
If we ever get a chance to go to one of them, highly
I may
recommend.
check out the Old Bag of Nails bread pudding.
Yep.
I've only had it like twice in my life, to be honest with you. With
Bread
the vanilla
pudding,
wafers. Did you ever eat it with the vanilla wafers?
That's how my mom used to make it back at home. She made it most of the time with the wafers, sometimes with other stuff, but like, it's good either way. I love it every way, shape, or form.
Just learn something about you, Joe.
The only one I've ever had was at Ye Old Dirty Bird. So
Really?
yeah, the standard's pretty high. I don't know.
And it's like you got to be expecting when you get the one at Dirty Bird. You have to be expecting it. It's like huge.
Is it? So it's big enough for two people.
It's big enough for two people. I mean, unless you like go there just for that, you could probably finish it by yourself. But I would recommend it for two.
We're gonna start doing bread pudding up here so we can compete.
Hey man, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, a little off topic here, but today is the Manchester Derby, and I see that you always post about Pep Guardiola.
I love Pep Guardiola
on social media.
Yeah, I do. I love him. First of all, I love his fashion sense is incredible. So and I would say that his tailoring, what makes him such a good dresser is because he has impeccable tailoring. His clothes fit him perfectly. They're not too big. They're not too tight. They just perfectly fit him. And when he's moving and walking, I notice that like his garments never are like too close to his body or holding him back or constricting him at all. So I found out that his wife's father was an Italian tailor, and I may be misquoting, so don't quote me on that. But I read that in a article a few years ago. And I also really, so it's that I think is why I really like him. And then also his attacking style. He's all about the attack. He's all about the offense. He really believes that a great offense and a great attacking offense will beat any great defense. So I think that I relate him to my business sense, where always be offensive. Always try to keep moving. Always try to keep moving the ball. Keep attacking. Keep energetic and active people around you. Keep people that are offensive minded around you. And I think that in the restaurant business, you have to be really offensive. So I try to correlate what he does as a soccer manager to what I do here. And it's really, like as I said, just be offensive minded. And I like his energy and his passion. And he's also a real fan of the past, and he's really always welcome to celebrate his mentors, and he talks a lot about people that helped him and shaped him. And he has a really good relationship with his players. And he has a really intense relationship with his players, and it's a very he's a manager and he's a coach, but he speaks to them like a player, and he speaks to them with a lot of intensity, and he also gives them space. There's a great documentary that he did on Amazon, and that's where I learned a lot about his style, because I'd watch him connect with his players, and whether they did a good job or a bad job, he was really in their space and was able to operate in their space. And I found that to be really impressive, and his leadership to be incredible. And he's a fearless guy, and he's not a big guy, and he doesn't weigh much, and he's not very tall, but he is fearless. And I imagine if you were in his presence, you would be a little intimidated by his fearlessness. And I think that that's one of the things that all those things that I've mentioned are why, I really like that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the greats.
He's one of the greats. You know what I mean? And he's been successful in a lot of places, and to be successful in a place like in Manchester City and playing the Premier League, and to go up against those guys and getting that ownership to continue to bring the money in that they do. I mean, that's amazing. So. So there you go. I went off a whole riff on
No, you're good. I was just wondering.
Yeah,
I post on him. Yeah, I thought it was the fashion sense and only that.
It
But
is.
that connects pretty well.
It started there, and it's like, but you can't let it just stay at a superficial post there, Frankie. Like if I just was like, I like, what I mean, like I can't like anyone, and if I just in that sense, like I'll start liking them that way, and then it's like you start learning about them. Like, and usually if I like someone for their dress sense, I think there's something about their character that I'm gonna like. If the type of way that a person dresses says a lot about themselves. So I think if I initially was like the way he dressed, I was gonna like something else about it.
Right on. To be honest with you, it's always crazy too. On match day, he might come in just like a jogger, and then other times he might come in with like a suit and tie.
You don't know what he's feeling.
Yeah, other day,
this channel right here.
Immaculate every time.
Every time, it doesn't matter what he's wearing. His fits are perfect every time.
There you go. And I mean, that's just Joe said this on the last podcast, but like you look good, you feel good, you feel you can just conquer the world,
Exactly. I've always had that mentality.
It's it's something we did even at the Heights. I will tell you that we if you see when you walk through, and anyone that comes through, we have our T-shirts, right? And our T-shirts have sayings on the back, right? But the way that we even designed our T-shirts before, they just were all black shirts, right? And when I first got here, I thought we need to have a symbol, right? Now we're a fast casual, polished casual restaurant. I said, so I don't want to button down because I know how hard they're working. I know how much they sweat. I know how much they're moving. But so I was like, we need kind of a really simplistic, crisp, clean T-shirt that has and if you look at our shirts, they're a dark navy blue with a beautiful white lettering, and it's a real kind of basic white lettering. And then we have our really cool Heights stick figure on there. It's very artistic. And on the back it says, I think it's Explore, Drink, Toledo. So we have different sayings. But the idea behind that, and then some jeans and some Converse or nice tennis shoes. And then we bought on the quarter zips, which I'm wearing right now. So there's certain things that we wanted to do that show that, hey, listen, they're crisp, they're clean, but they're casual. And I can tell you that the staff feels good in them. They like wearing them. They're comfortable. Jeans are comfortable to work in. Tennis shoes are comfortable to work in. And when you have a cool T-shirt on that's crisp and clean, and you're going to feel better. So I think that is, you nailed it right there. We want to keep people are comfortable and they feel good about what they're wearing. They're going to be successful.
Yep. There it is. Yeah. I was going to mention the quarters. It's pretty nice. I like that.
Just got them in. And these are done at Jute Mode down the street.
That's awesome.
We always go local.
We're actually working with them right now to get quarter zip for our whole team.
Oh, they're great. Man. They're great. Adam Street. I mean, we've been great partners with them. Since I've got here, I've bought every piece of uniform has been through Jute Mode.
Yep.
So I'll continue to do so. And I do it for two reasons. One, because it's local, and one, because they do a great job. So those two are simultaneous.
Local, they do a great job, and I mean they're reasonably priced compared to anywhere else you would go as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking about local, and Joey's got a nice. What do you have in your hand right now?
There you go.
A coffee. From the Flying Rhino, I believe it's called.
Flying Rhino Coffee Company. Yeah. Shout out to Angie.
There you go. All right, so in case anybody missed the first podcast, can we get just like the Spark Notes version on how you got here?
Sure, yeah.
And what's your role?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so my role is the director of food and beverage for the hotel. So that includes our downstairs restaurant, our upstairs restaurant, our banquets and catering department. I have been here almost 2 years. I got in this role from basically spending the last decade in restaurant and food and beverage operations inside of luxury hotels. So I've worked for a lot of different companies. I've worked for Marriott International. I've worked for Omni Hotels, worked for Destination Hotels, worked for some high-end private country clubs, 5-star clubs, and then spent some time working in some boutique hotels as well. So I've had some really great lifestyle experience and, as I said, luxury experience. And I came here I was doing a little stint out in San Francisco, and I got here about almost 2 years ago to come in here and to build a team up and to really push this lifestyle brand into the city of Toledo.
Cool.
There you go.
Right on.
There's the Spark Notes for you.
Yeah, that's good for sure.
I've noticed a few changes here since the last time we've been here. You guys have the igloos outside. You want to touch on those a little bit?
Would love to talk about the igloos. Joey would always love to talk about the igloos.
Everybody wants to talk about the igloos. I never thought that fire retardant piece of a sheet and PVC pipe would excite people, but as much as they do. But it's it's not that. It's what you put inside them and the experience you create. So it's not something basic, and then you build it up. These are things that we've wanted to put up for some time now. People have been winterizing their patios for Chicago, New York have been doing it for the last couple years. They have these amazing patio spaces, but they lose them during the wintertime. So they've created these igloos, and I should say Chicago, New York, and Nashville, Tennessee did them a few years ago as well. So we wanted to do them. We weren't successful last year, but this year we were successful to put them up. And then it also became a way to socially distance guests with the pandemic. So it started off as just a thing just to winterize your patio and just to keep people outside. And then it became, hey, these things can help people social distance. So we've put them up. We have 2 up. We're about to put a 3rd one up. We've brought in some local partners to help stylize them. And what we call them is basically a winter escape. It's an experience. It's a winter experience. It's a time for people to go out there to enjoy craft cocktails, beer, wine, and food, and do it in a really cool setting and in a warm setting, and also an opportunity for people in small groups that trust each other with social distancing to get together. And I think one of the things that we're seeing in the restaurant business is that the word crowd is a no-no. Crowds are trying to limit crowds, 10 or less, 25 or less in some other gatherings. And here it gives you an opportunity between 6 and 8 people that you trust and that that you can still social distance with, and you can get in and have an igloo and get it in a shared space and not have to be around a crowd and not have to be around a bunch of other people. And I think that you'll see igloos continue to be prevalent in all restaurants. You look at downtown and you look at the Blarney has it now, right? And it's an opportunity for people to keep these spaces open. And if you look at what Ohio has said, hey, listen, and even Michigan said, like, outdoor dining is allowed if you can keep outdoor dining going. Well, it's very hard for Michigan and Ohio to keep outdoor dining going when the temperature's in the 30s, right? It's easier to do when you're in places like North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. So places like restaurants like Ohio and Michigan specifically have to bring these out to keep people outside. The air's flowing. Outdoor is definitely a little bit safer than indoor when it comes to COVID-19. So these igloos provided a tremendous revenue opportunity. They've been incredible for us over the last 2.5 months. They've been really successful. I know they'll continue to be successful, and we'll increase revenue with even the 3rd one coming up. Really, really excited about them, and I'm glad that Toledo gave us the okay to put them up because it's helped us a lot.
That's awesome. And I was going to kind of mention, I haven't seen them in many restaurants. You mentioned the Blarney here in Toledo. A lot of my family lives in Cleveland, though.
Yeah.
And they're pretty decently prevalent there for all the big, breakfast and lunch spots.
Oh, yeah.
And they're nice. I mean, they're always a good time. Like you said, you can connect with people in a closed environment, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, we built snow forts.
Yep.
We'd hang out all day in the snow forts.
Yep.
And there's something about that experience, just being in there, or a tree house. To me, it reminds me of building a snow fort, being in a tree house. It's just, there's something communal about it, and it's fun. And it's the new velvet rope. You go to a nightclub. Well, no one is now, but when they used to go to nightclubs, you sit behind the velvet rope, and there's a little bit of that effect, the velvet rope effect. And there's nothing wrong with you going out and spending your hard-earned money for a great experience. So, that's what we work for is to enjoy ourselves, and that's what restaurants and rooftop bars are there for. They're there for people to connect, socialize, and to reward themselves for a job well done.
Well said.
Well, we're talking about outdoor seating and how it's been extremely difficult in the Midwest, or it will be in the winter season. What is the fuss with the space heaters and getting them? Is there just a supply chain issue here?
Yeah. It's really, what it is, Frankie? It's supply and demand. And I think that you have 2 different types of people buying space heaters normally. You had residential people in their houses. Honey, it's too cold in this house. Okay, dear, I'll buy a space heater. And vice versa. Men and women both have problems with cold weather. And so you have residential buying a lot, and then you have restaurant, you have commercial buying a lot. So it's just supply and demand. They're just running out of them. They don't have enough made. They don't have enough produced. I mean, it's like initially when we had the pandemic start, they ran out of masks very quickly. 3MM didn't have enough masks. people that because who use the mask? Construction workers, people in the medical fields, primarily. But then you have residential just coming in, buying masks. And you know how people are. I mean, look what happened with the toilet paper as well, too. Hoarders. I mean, hoarders, people hoarder. So there's someone sitting now that has about, probably a full closet, full of masks right now. So same thing with space heaters. And what that does is that drives the price up, right? So, inflation's never good. So I think that, we were lucky to get space heaters in because we needed them. But yeah, they're become a hot commodity now with face masks and toilet paper and space heaters, and they're all, and it's going to take some time for some of these production companies to ramp up because they're still under the impact of COVID and they still have to look after their employees and they've had to slow their production down. So unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle of what's going on right now. Is that you want these companies to come in and produce, but they're having trouble keeping their employees safe with this. So it's created a little bit of a problem.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from. I feel like on the news, just everywhere. It's like can't get space heaters anywhere.
Space heater.
Yeah,
I have 3. I'm not parting with them. I'm keeping my space heater.
I actually three personal ones or
yeah, okay. 3 industrial.
Okay.
Space
and they're back at your house.
Yeah, you called me out there. Called me out there. That's where they are. In my house.
No, I actually had a friend in early May when space heaters weren't at like their peak demand. He had bought into a stock in which they were manufacturing space heating.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and I just like asked him. I was like, dude, like, how did you know that was going to be a thing? He's like, with everything else going on, like in the winter, and there's going to be like a shortage somewhere.
Wow, what a smart guy.
Yeah, I was actually blown away. I was like, that's some forethought right there.
That is some forethought.
Yeah.
So he must be doing transcendental meditation if he's able to come up with those ideas.
Do you do any of that?
It's a good question. I actually was talking with a guy who was selling me on a new inventory system, and we got into that conversation. I do a little bit of it. When I say a little bit of it, maybe like 2 years ago I did it. I haven't kept up with it. There's a lot of stock in it, a lot of famous and successful people. Jerry Seinfeld does a tremendous amount of transcendental meditation. I think most senior executives do it. And like I said, a lot of famous people, a lot of successful people. I think there's nothing wrong with reflecting and sitting and meditating. I think that we all should take a time to sit and relax and calm our minds. You know what I mean? I think there's there's an old saying like one mind. You need to have one mind. And I think that a lot of times we get pulled in a lot of different directions and we can make rash decisions. And I think when we take the time just to sit and relax and just to be in thought, that's good. Jimmy Valvano. You guys know Jimmy V, right? You guys know Jimmy V? He's coach of NC State in the 80s. Yeah. He's
the amazing run.
Yeah. Incredible, best run, survive and advance, amazing documentary. Mm-hmm. He said you should do 3 things every day. You should think, you should laugh, and you should cry. And if you do those things, three things every day, you've had a full day. And he said every day I do those 3 things. Is the crying sad? Sometimes it's tears of joy. But the idea is that if you're doing those 3 things, you're fulfilling all of your emotions, you're fulfilling your thought, you're really tapping into every part of your being. And I've always kind of thought about that and think, maybe that's my form of meditation. Maybe it's not sitting, in silence, but having a full day like that, and maybe doing those 3 things is something that will keep me going.
That's a really unique perspective. I've never heard that. What is it? I need to watch.
So it's he actually said it. If you watched his last when he got the award from the ESPYs, his last speech that he gave before he unfortunately passed away. He says it in his speech. So if you type in Jimmy V ESPY speech, it'll come right up, and he says it right in there. He also gave an amazing motivational speech right after he won the. They had him on a motivational tour, and he was speaking to a bunch of successful CEOs after he won the NCAA title. And he has a hilarious motivational speech where I think he mentions it's in there as well, but he definitely mentions it in his last ESPY speech. And if you look at the amount of the guys that he's revered by, I mean, like Mike Krzyzewski is just, he says he misses them every day. Dick Vitale says he lost a body part when he lost Jimmy V. I mean, he's so revered by people because of his personality and who he was. He did a tremendous amount. You guys will be interested in this. He did a tremendous amount of radio before, there wasn't any podcasting, but he had his own radio show, and like most coaches do. But then he had his own talk show, and he would bring in other academic people from NC State. So you'd have like the department chair of the agriculture department come on, and he would interview him and ask him about this, and he would bring on like the economics chair, and he would interview all these people like inside NC State and just talk about what they do, because he was so interested in what everyone else do. And he said that he's like, the only thing that kept me really in school was basketball. So he wanted to learn about things. So he was one of these guys. I think that's why, if you look at him, you think, why is he so revered? It wasn't just because of basketball, it's just because of everything he did with basketball, and how he included himself. So he's another person that I've always tried to look at and go like, hey, I'm energetic, I'm excited, I'm happy. Here's someone else that's like that, that's really, really, was successful. So there's a blueprint there. You can be a nice guy and still be successful. You know what I mean? I think I always try to look at people and think, hey, this person does things that I wouldn't do, and they're successful. So sometimes when I was younger, it'd be like, I don't know if I want to be successful, because I don't know if, do you have to do these certain things? Do you have to be successful? Do you have to have this kind of negative impact on people? But then you find people in your life that are successful and they're happy, and you're like, oh, okay, there is a way to be a nice guy, and nice guys can finish first. And I think that gives me a lot of hope. And I try to tell that to anyone that I work with, like, do the right thing. It's worth it. It's a little bit harder, but you know what? You'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, measuring other people's success is very flawed. I mean, everyone's success is subjective, really.
To your point.
That's how I look at it. Everybody has their own motives, but as long as you stay true to yourself.
Yeah, it's a good point. I try to.
I'm surprised you've never seen that 30 for 30. It's great.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, man.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
The Last Dance. I was like the last real that was really good. It was the last real sports media that I got into.
Yeah,
there was a lot behind that I had no clue about what's going on in the background.
Because I mean, that was 1993, right?
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, oh man, that was maybe a little. 95, right? Because the Dream Team, right? They covered the Dream Team.
Yeah, it was 95. And then, but they kind of talk about their whole, the span from when Jordan got there till
what a team.
Left, kind of. I know.
What an organ. I mean, what those guys went through.
I know. It was just crazy hearing this stuff about Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen too. That was just.
I was amazed with the whole relationship with Jerry Krause and how he was trying to break up the team and how he was trying to bring certain people in, and there was this antagonistic relationship between the organization, Michael Jordan, Jerry Krause, and all that was going on, and we're not re-signing, Phil Jackson. I mean, just kind of an incredible, all this, these. It was like a soap opera.
It really was.
And then they would go out and win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Win 82 games. So, and not even have the really support of the GM and have all these internal conflicts and still go out and beat teams by 30. And maybe the greatest team ever.
Yeah. You have Dennis Rodman, hasn't been to practice in 2 weeks, shows up and gets a 20 and 20,
Yeah, he was an incredible athlete, and you just look at that and you think, I mean, that's the greatest team. That may be the greatest sports team. And I'd love to see them do a documentary on the Patriots because they were so successful. Obviously, there was turmoil there. I think that would be another one that you'd love to get inside a winning machine and see how those guys. Because I imagine there was a lot of tough conversations but their ability just to continue teams to keep on winning.
And I mean that was 18 years of beating almost every team, so they have to have hours and hours of film that they can go off of from that. I mean,
it's incredible to be that successful. You look at some franchises that have really great seasons, and then the next year they don't even make the playoffs.
Francisco.
Yeah, I mean the Philadelphia Eagles. We won the Super Bowl, and next year, you made the playoffs, but everyone's like repeat. No, we haven't been back since, and now we're 3-8. So
still have a chance to make it.
Yeah, we do. I know. Yeah, we do. Everybody does. I could field a team right now in the NFC East. I think I could be competitive.
Washington, probably.
We could get a couple guys. We get a couple guys in Toledo. You know what I mean? We could put a team together. We may be able to put the playoffs, guys. It's pretty bad, but. I mean, it's just that's a winning formula, but it's personnel. I mean, I think same thing as you're at Heights. It's I was going to mention to you guys, it's all personnel. It's hiring. It's getting the right people. You know what I mean? I used to think when I was young in my career, it was all about training and forcing people into roles and like pushing them and pushing them, and trying to get them where they need to be. But a lot of it now, I realize it's like you got to hire the right people. You got to hire the right people, and then if you put that same effort into training, you're gonna reap the rewards. But personnel is, and we've done a great job of bringing in some amazing people here who can open restaurants and close restaurants and do the right thing and make good judgment calls, and that's what you hope for. You know what I mean?
And I believe you said most of your staff stays here a pretty long time, correct?
Yeah, we've had if you minus the pandemic, we've had staff that has been here for almost all of them been here a year, which in the restaurant business in a hotel is pretty tough. Oh, yeah. You know, I think Benchmark out in Perrysburg does a really good job of maintaining their staff.
We actually have a podcast with them next week.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they're great. They do a really good job. And, you know, I mean, you know, competition or not, they are a gold standard when it comes to restaurants here. And they keep their people. And they have a community of servers up there. They take good care of them, and they're very passionate what they do. And we have a similar base here. We have people that, you know, that like this place and make good money and bring things to it. And I think that's harder in a hotel restaurant, to be honest with you. There are a lot of variables here, and there's a lot of ever-changing parts and a lot of different guests, and you know, there's not a lot of regulars. It's a lot of different people, and you know, but it's very fast moving. But we do a good job of keeping people here because, you know, we hire the right people, and then we also take care of their challenges and obstacles that they have. We take them serious, and we invest in them, and they invest in us, and we make sure that we keep that relationship with them, that they know that we're invested in them, and that in return they have to be invested into us. And if that wanes at all, you know, either way, we talk about it. If there's a drop in investment on either side, we try to figure it out. We don't let that just mushroom cloud. You know, and I think you have to do that. You have to have those honest conversations with yourself and honest conversations with your staff on if there's challenges. You just can't ignore them. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, confrontation. You have to accept confrontation, and you have to meet it, and then try to figure it out. And we do a good job there about that.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it last time. If somebody, you know, may be having a bad day, some bosses may not want to find the reason they're having a bad day, and they might be like, "Oh, this person is just slacking." Mm-hmm. But when it comes to here, you know, you want to find the reason if somebody's having a bad day and fix that before it ever, like, you know, blows up and they start feeling bad every day or something like that.
Really good point, Joe. You know, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Honestly.
So how much of your job do you take pride in between like being logical and doing all of the right things by the book, and then also having a sense of like emotional intelligence and being able to be very personable? How important is it to be able to have a realistic viewpoint on both duality?
Oh, that's an amazing question.
Because obviously, we're the position you're in, it's all about affecting, like, you know, the bottom line of the
really
business.
good. It's a really good question. I think that, you know what, it's hard to find the balance of that sometimes, but you have to make. I think as an operator, you have to think of the business first. But I think what you try to do is you try to place yourself in a position to make a good business decision that's not going to affect too many people negatively. And I think you do that by understanding your business model. And I think if you build, I think I mentioned it last time, like if you build a good foundation and a strong business model and you understand it, if you have to make a decision that's gonna, let's say that's gonna affect people negatively, the impact won't be as great because you understand your model and you're working within your business model. And I think that you do that by the products that you buy, the beverage programming that you have, the menus that you create. You understand who your customer is, what they're buying, what you're buying, what you're selling it at. And if you do that and you work within those constructs, when you have to make a rash decision, you're not going to negatively impact too many people. And you also need to communicate your business model to the people that are working for you. And I took a minute to get to that, but I was actually working out in my head as I was talking. You tell people what you're doing and what your business is, and they then understand and then can work within it. So, you know.
Oh, 100%. I feel like most times when you get into a setting, like a corporate setting or a larger business setting, it is to the point where you have people like in their own cubes and they don't really understand the ecosystem of what actually is going on within the business, why people are working on the business, how people are affecting the bottom line. And I think a lot of people struggle with communicating to their employees the entire business model and the reasoning behind that. I feel like oftentimes people just really get placed in their isolated cube, department, whatever you want to call it, without having a greater understanding of the entire ecosystem of the business.
Absolutely. And that can happen really easily.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you probably know this more than anybody, Frank. It can happen right under your nose, right? And you don't even know what's going on. But I think the first time you hear that chatter, and when they use the word they, when they say, you know, they're, or, you know, I heard they're going to do this, or they're probably doing that. They've created their own ecosystem inside of an ecosystem. And we've all heard that. And the thing is, a leader, you have to be like, oh, yeah, we have to break that wall down, because they have to know that it's us and it's we. I always, you know, keep note of that when any of those conversations come up, because I want everybody, not everyone gets to make a big decision, but I want everyone to feel like they're a part of something. So we do try to ask for a lot of constructive feedback from our staff and things that they're working on. And I try to personally get to every staff member definitely throughout the day. Anyone that's working up here, I communicate to one-on-one with every day. I try to talk with everybody every day. And then, you know, some people that I maybe see once a week, I definitely make a point. But it's easier for me to do that because it's a smaller group of people. So I think when you move to a larger organization, when you don't have the chance to do that, there is an opportunity for you to convey those messages out. It just may be on a bigger platform, but you can still make that connection with people by letting them know what the message is.
Yeah, I think the one-on-one sit-downs or talks that you have with people are pretty invaluable to your business, just because it's so hard when you're in a group setting to like actually let people, you know how you feel, and then also for them to reciprocate their true emotions. It's just a lot easier one-on-one. And then also, you know, the bigger your team grows, the harder it's going to be, which is why you need to have trustworthy leaders or managers underneath you who can, you know, also do that work for you. And then there's a very streamlined process in which the communication is flowing up and down the stream.
I'm reading this book a buddy of mine gave to me. He's a former Marine, and it's Jim Mattis, Call Sign Chaos. And it talks about how he went through that, where he made a decision. He was promoted up. I think he was a battalion commander. He knew he was going to have less interaction with some of his soldiers. So he understood that, and he accepted it, and he didn't try to fight it. And then he did exactly what you said. He built up really strong relationships with his subordinates, with his direct subordinates. And he knew that if he conveyed a message to those leaders, those junior leaders, they would convey the same exact message to their subordinates. But he did that because he had trust in his initial subordinates, and he knew his message wouldn't be construed. He said he was able to be effective. So when he would eventually get out to visit, to go into the foxholes, the soldiers, other than greeting him as a general, would greet him with a certain type of respect and a certain type of understanding. Like, we know why we're here. We know what the plan is. We get it, General. We know. And he knew, like, oh, so my messages are getting to them.
Yeah. It's like the most intense game of, what is it, phone call or
telephone. Yeah, exactly. I was never good at that growing up.
You're a great communicator now. That's what matters.
It takes time, right? Yeah. It takes time, but yeah, I think I'm probably halfway through that book, and it's a very intense book, because it's funny it's a book for business leaders, but I sometimes take a step back and be like, this guy's talking about combat. You know, he's talking about communication that's going to depend on if someone lives or dies. So, I mean, that's pretty, when you're reading it, and it's a very intense book to read, and you're thinking, you take a step back and you're like, wow, I understand the intensity. It's life or death situations that he's talking about. So that communication should be pretty streamlined, right?
So yeah, it seems like a lot of the media that you consume, whether it be through reading or online, is very self-improving, and it's through people that you like look up to.
Yeah.
I mean, while we're on the topic, is there anything else that you really enjoy when it comes to like media consumption? Maybe not like self-help or self-improvement, but
it seems like you do a good job relating everything that you like read and see.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
How you manage.
I try to. I'm trying to think, of people that I really have a lot of like. I like people that I'm really fascinated with people that have a craft or are interested in a craft and pursue that craft. I find that like I'm interested in learning about other people's craft. Like my craft has become learning about other people's craft, and I'm really interested in that. I'm trying to think if there's anybody really off the top of my head that I want to mention. It's just right now I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. Maybe something will come to me, but yeah, I think military leaders are great. Certain politicians, early politicians, I try to follow. I try to look at certain mayors in certain cities and see what their impact was. I think it depends on what I'm reading and what I'm finding out about. But yeah,
do you have any guilty pleasures when it comes to media consumption?
Oh man, guilty pleasures. I love, I love to watch. I love watching 3-minute clips of The Sopranos.
Okay.
Because they're all over YouTube. And for some reason, I will love to watch like a 3-minute scene of like Tony Soprano talking to his capos. I just find like they're just they're just awesome scenes. And they always include a little bit of food and beverage. That's what I always really love about it too. Like there's a great scene when they're Paulie and Ralphie are negotiating something, and like they have a little. Silvio's there, and he's like 3 espressos, and the guys, and they're in like a warehouse, and there's construction everywhere. But they have this. They're at a green plastic table, but there's this beautiful espresso cups, and they're talking about like divvying up $15,000, and like. It's a criminal thing. I get it, but I love watching like little clips of that because I think I grew up around a lot of Italian people growing in Philadelphia, and the relationship between like food, wine, business. Everyone's got a big personality. Everyone's got a character. I watch like little clips of that. I also really love like little days in the life. I really love like days in the life of like sports, like athletes. I really love, like if they did a day in the life with Pep, I'd probably watch it like every day. There's one they do with Cliff Kingsbury that used to be the coach of Texas Tech, who's the coach of I find him to be interesting. He gets to work at like 3:30 in the morning, and like he works out in the morning to show his players that he's just committed as him. So I like the days in the life. And especially of like, I find it like younger, successful people, you know what I mean? That are really pursuing a craft and all the little trappings that come with it. You know what I mean? The little cool things that they get to do. And, and thinking one of the episodes, Cliff's like taking a plane to like one part of Texas to do a booster meeting, and then he flies back and he's got this. And I like to watch people have like full days. You know what I mean? And it's just them in their craft, I guess. I'm repeating it, but.
No, I love those. I mean, those are just easy to consume because you really don't have to. You don't have to do too much critical thinking, but you can still appreciate like what they're doing. And you can also think about like how you apply it to your life. But it's just always so fascinating, especially like sports athletes. Like I just love it.
I thought of someone. I know I've been talking so much, but I thought of someone. Kurt Russell is my favorite actor, and I've always really appreciated. And didn't know why he was my favorite actor. I loved a lot of movies he was in, like Big Trouble in Little China and like The Thing, and he's in this Best of Times. But I've really grown to understand that like he's a very like unassuming person, and he's very like he doesn't make his ego isn't very big, and he's just himself, and he just is very self-aware, and he knows who he is. And I got into his wine club last year. He makes wine. I didn't even know he made wine. And the way I found out that he made wine was someone told me there's a great new winemaker, and he's making French style Pinot Noir out in California. And I tried the wine, and I found that it was Kurt Russell after I tried the wine. Wow. So it was such a cool way. I was like, it makes sense that I would find out my favorite actor is making wine by not knowing that his name isn't anywhere on the bottle. And I was like, now I know that's why I even love Kurt Russell more and more. And I think it's just the movies and the style of movies he made. A lot of his movies initially came out and people are like, oh, they're not good. You know, they're too strange and they're weird. And, you know, Escape from New York and all these movies, you know, now they're like critically acclaimed and they're cult favorites and like people love them. And so I think that he was kind of ahead of his time in some of the stuff that he made and people that he worked with. And he's someone that I look at as like, you know, I never really considered him to be like a real actor. He's an actor, but he always seemed like he was just Kurt Russell in a movie. And he played different characters, but to me, it never seemed like, oh yeah, Kurt Russell's an actor. I was just concerned, like, oh, it's just Kurt Russell. He's an actor, but he seems to be just more than that. Just seems to be just within himself. So
great perspective.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, I love that you had the wine first before you used his.
No.
Yeah, I was out in San Francisco and a buddy of mine mentioned it to me and I tried it and I was overjoyed and I kind of was like, and the wine was really good. And then I found out it was his afterwards and I thought, man, that's great. Like that makes me like him even more.
Right.
Especially because he wasn't showy. He didn't like put his name on the bottle just for the recognition of Kurt. You know?
And I had a chance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like some guys will do that, you know. I had a chance to meet him. Actually, it's so funny. I got invited out to a members only wine party that he hosts every year. And it was on May 31st, which was on my birthday, and it got canceled from COVID.
Yeah. So I was all excited to go, but you know what? I think there's an old saying. I heard Ryan Gosling say it recently. You never want to meet your heroes because they'll always let you down. I don't think Kurt would do that, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to meet him. I don't know because I mean, this thing is just like you build him up in your head. What if he's having a bad day? You know what I mean? Like everybody does. I don't think Kurt Russell's that type of guy. I think he would be really great. But at the same time, it's like sometimes you just like you don't want to meet like you know what I mean. You don't want to meet your heroes because you're just like just have him out there, man. If I meet him, maybe I don't want to plan to meet him. I think that's what I'm kind of saying. It's like I don't want to have a planned meeting. If I just run into him one time in my life and maybe it happens and I have good interaction with him, hey, that's great. But it's like sometimes when you plan it, you just build it up too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kurt, what up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I talk about his wine enough, maybe he'll
take a visit down to Toledo.
Oh, I'd love. Yeah, I'm sure he's been through it.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to the Heights a little bit. Besides the igloos, has there been any other changes in the past 6 months to a year?
We've definitely went through some menu changes. We update our menus seasonally, summer, fall, and winter. We've updated our cocktail menus as well. We have an incredible partnership with Kettle One Vodka. We have a bottle service program with them. We released with the igloos, and we also have a really, really great botanical mule program we do with Kettle One, which has been outstanding for us. People love our mules. They love a Moscow mule.
I was going to say last time I was here.
Yeah, right.
Yep, it was phenomenal.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
And it's a copper cup, and it really signifies that I say that you're off work and you're hanging out and you got a copper cup and the light hits it a certain way and there's a little gleam off it. And it's different than holding any type of beer mug or wine glass. It's a vibe. And that's a program that we really great. I work with a gentleman named Corey Williamson from Kettle One directly. We've built up a really incredible partnership. And then I'm really excited about the food that our chef Mike Rigaud does, who's a great chef that's been here. He's been here a little over a year. He's our executive chef. He really gets it. He really gets the Toledo food scene. He really has built up an incredible support base here. He creates great craft burgers and amazing wood-fired pizzas, and then some really interesting, tasty appetizers. We've had a chance to put out some great. He has a burger on there which is called the Beast, which is basically a mix of a lot of different great meats. There's pork shoulder, there's Wagyu in there. It's an incredible burger, and he has that on there. He's got some really interesting wood-fired pizzas. He's got one called the Rick, which is like a bourbon barbecue-based pizza, which is amazing. And then he has your traditional margherita pizza, which is a traditional Italian pizza. And then he makes a great pepperoni, and he's got a mushroom and onion, and he's really dived into wood-fired pizzas and great burgers, and has taken it and then
really kind of developed into this really great food and beverage program. So,
is the Nashville hot chicken still on the menu?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that's one of my favorites here personally.
That is the jam, as we say. That is one of the best
sandwiches we have. He spent time in Nashville making that sandwich with some of the best Nashville chicken sandwich makers in the country. So he, when we brought him in, we knew that he had that Southern hospitality and that Southern cooking flair, and that, he could keep people's stomachs full and he could keep them coming back. And, this is an opportunity for people to indulge. We do have great salads. We do have an opportunity. We do have low calorie offerings, but when people come up here, you can have a beer and you can have a Nashville chicken hot sandwich. You can have a cocktail. That's what we want people to do. And then take in the view. So we want people to enjoy comfort food up here and relax. And like I said, there's people up here who want a low calorie offering. We sure do have it. So,
Joey asking the real questions about the Nashville.
I was gonna say I've had a few of those around town too,
okay.
and it's hard to beat the Heights one. I wish I would have had one when I went to Nashville, so I had the actual
Patty B's.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, how could you do that?
I don't know. We were focused on some other things when we were down there.
Yeah.
So.
No, last time I was here though,
yeah.
got a couple mules. And I had the Nashville hot sandwich.
Yeah,
phenomenal. It was like one of the best dining experiences I've had.
Oh, I appreciate that, Frankie. That means a lot, and
it makes me feel good because it's simple offerings. The Moscow Mule is like 3 or 4 ingredients. The Nashville Chicken Hot, it's not overly done. It's simple, good, quality ingredients, and that's really what we try to do up here at the Heights. So I appreciate that compliment.
Oh yeah, and it was like the perfect setting too because it was just starting to get dark out, and like the end of summer was 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
the fire was going outside, so we were all just kind of chilling. Had that copper mug. It said like, "I'm here to relax, but I'm also like open to conversation." It was just like the perfect setting.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate
it. Was awesome. I wanted to ask you, what is some slang from Philly that might not be known in the Midwest?
John.
Okay.
You know who John is, right? JAWN.
Okay, John's a noun, and John can mean a lot of different things. So Philadelphia uses that word to describe things like nice Johns. So that could mean your shoes. So if I walk by and I say, "Oh, yeah, nice Johns," that means your shoes. Johns can also mean, "Hey, you taking that John out this weekend?" That can also mean a person. John can mean anything that you want to relate it to that you don't want to know people that you're talking about. So I could say I may be stretching a little bit, but I'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, give me that John over there." So John's a noun that describes a lot of different things in Philadelphia. And there's a great scene in Creed. If you want to see how in the movie Creed, when they go out to get cheesesteaks in Creed, he asked her that question, "What's a John?" And she goes, "That's a John, you a John, this a John." And she starts pointing like the ketchup aisle. These are all Johns. So Johns is a word that used in Philadelphia to describe. That's our Philadelphia centric word.
Okay,
that's awesome.
I've only ever heard that in from Philadelphia rappers music.
John, yeah.
I hear them mention it a lot, and I guess what you said it can mean a little bit of everything.
If you don't wanna. It's a word, like I said, if you don't want people to know what you're talking about, you use the word John to describe it. And you're hoping that other person picks up on that. And that's the most Philadelphia-centric word that I can come up with right now. Other than yo, but New Yorkers use yo. I will tell you that Philadelphians use yo in a lot of capacity in a lot of different ways. So yo can be aggressive. It could be like, yo. It can also be apologetic, like, yo. It can be more. I think apologetic, aggressive. You could question it like, "Yo." A lot of different ways we use "yo" in different tenses.
Okay, that's awesome.
There you go.
Do you guys say "in it" down there in it?
More of a Pittsburgh thing, I think.
Yeah, that's a Pittsburgh thing.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the guys that we work with, Joe, the photographer here is last time. He's from Pittsburgh. Okay. So he was throwing around some words, and we didn't really know we didn't really know what they meant. So it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely a Pittsburgh thing.
Okay. Ours is a little bit the accent is Philadelphia accent is very nasally. So it's good that I'm a little stuffy today because I can get real nasally. But we say more things like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, talk like that. And it's a very nasal accent. I will pick up on a Philadelphia person here instantly hearing their voice. Yeah.
Water.
We were
Water.
We were told it was the Steelers and the Eagles.
The Eagles. Well, and there you go. So there's how you break up the accents, right?
Okay.
Eagles and then Steelers.
Yep.
So the Pittsburgh people are lower, like that, or much lower, where Eagles people are like Eagles.
Okay.
Or higher, lower. Higher, lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Pittsburgh, that's exactly how they are. Pittsburgh people, it's funny that we're in the same state. It couldn't be any more different.
Right.
A Philadelphian and a Pittsburghian, I don't know how they I don't know. But, and it's funny, I've been to Pittsburgh once in my life.
Really?
Yeah, which is, I probably have really missed out on some great things. Mm-hmm. But Philadelphians have it's very vice versa. Philadelphians have no interest in people in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh has no interest in Philadelphia. And I love the fact that it's mutually agreeable. Don't have any interest in each other.
Nice.
That's awesome.
It's really, and it should be that way because it's just, we're separated. Western PA and Eastern PA are just, we filter into the New York scene, and there, Pittsburgh is much more, I think, Western PA, Ohio, and it's just it's a little more of a vibe over there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always been interesting, like that relationship where you guys agree to not like each other, but it's like the one thing you guys agree on.
We really agree on that.
Yeah.
We really got Eagles, Pittsburgh. Football games are great. They're great rivalries. I think for a little bit, Penn State really kind of brought us now I shouldn't, because Pittsburgh doesn't consider Penn State a real big fans. I just asked my Pittsburgh buddy. I would think that Penn State would bring us together because we all kind of one time I feel like Pennsylvania claimed Penn State. Like even people in Philadelphia were like, you would see a lot of Philadelphians went to Penn State for college. So people in Philadelphia loved Penn State because they went to school there. So for a time, a lot of Pennsylvania adopted, Eastern Pennsylvania adopted Penn State as their college. Growing up, there's not a lot of great football in Pennsylvania, football, and especially in Philadelphia, the colleges aren't great. Penn State was our college team. We would root for Penn State. You know what I mean? But I think Pittsburgh is more UPitt. So
not great for football, but good for education. Penn State. So.
Amazing for education. I grew up. I got so many. Once you guys get me started, I got so many stuff. I grew up watching what they call the Big Five, which is the 5 city schools in Philadelphia. They play a round robin every year. Their non-conference schedule, they include all the schools. So it's LaSalle, Temple, Penn, Villanova, and St. Joe's. And there's Drexel is the 6th, but it's not included. So there's 5 schools. They play a round robin. They schedule non-conference games. Whoever has the best record wins the Big Five. And all the games are held at the Palestra, which is at UPenn. And it doesn't matter, I swear, when I grew up, it didn't matter what the rankings were, what the teams were, every game was close. So I remember watching Penn beat Villanova, and Villanova was 17th in the nation, was 11-0, played Penn, lost by 2. And Penn had Penn was an Ivy League juggernaut, but they were nowhere near to compete with that. And I'd see LaSalle play St. Joe's, and St. Joe's was that year they made the run, and LaSalle kept it close for the first half, and they're down 2 going in the second half. It just didn't matter. It's just a pride game, and it's great basketball, and it's always at the Penn, and there isn't a bad seat at the Palestra. So I grew up, my uncles took me to a lot of games growing up. So, and that I had a blast going to those. You know what I mean? Because I've always really appreciated college basketball more than the pros because I always felt you're playing for your school.
Yep.
There's a little more honor in there. There's a little more pride, if you ever get a chance to go to the Palestra at UPenn, I mean, when this thing ends, you guys should do it. It's so worth it. And just go to a basketball game and go to a Big Five game and go, pick a game when Villanova's there because, Villanova's a top-ranked team. So pick a game when Villanova's playing there, and it'll be awesome, man.
Keep that in mind.
They'll play their hearts out too. Whoever plays, the 2 teams will just, it's like the NCAA championship.
Right.
Every game.
March Madness is just, with college basketball, its own thing because anybody can win. We were talking about it, NC State earlier. Anybody can really win. Once you make it in that tournament, it seems like it doesn't even matter. The 3 teams you expect to win almost never win, except for Villanova those 1 or 2 years when they were pretty untouchable. But even then, even that Kentucky team that had 5 NBA players, they won I think every game in the
They choked that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like it's just insane to me. Like March Madness, you can always lose that one game.
The
Like,
NCAA tournament is awesome, man. It's just the greatest. 64 teams. You know, when I went to University of Dayton, we had the 2 playing games. With UD got the playing games, so they were great. I mean, we would go to them, and like I remember watching like Alabama. What was it? Not out University of Alabama something Tech or something. State. Maybe it was Alabama State play Oakland University, and like it went down to the wire, and it's just there. I mean, it's just, and then Oakland University gets in. I mean, both teams have never been to the tournament. You know, they're playing in the playing game to get the tournament. It's just got to be fun. I mean, it's got to be. I love to talk to a guy that was like, or a player, or a coach, or someone that was involved in March Madness. Like, what was that like? You know, what was it like being in the March Madness and like moving up through the rounds? Like, what's it like going from like the round 1 to the final 4?
Or when you get that 3-point buzzer beater, because it's like that seems to happen in half the games. It's like they're close, and then it's like a 2 or 3 wins a game, and it just seems to go in.
Regardless of seed, every game feels like it comes down to like 2 shots.
It does, and you know, and it's so great because like you know, if you go to a small school, you go to a mid-major, and you cheat in the tournament, you got stake in it. You know, you're like a stakeholder. You're like, yeah, like I remember when like Dayton would make the tournament, or like Temple would make the tournament. Temple actually won a round. It was like great, and I'm like in Florida at a restaurant. I'm like working. I'm like, Temple's in a tournament this year. You know, it's like, yeah, we made the tournament, you know? And it's just that great week. When your college or university makes the tournament, it's just a cool feeling to be like, yeah, man, like I'm a part of it now. Like I get to watch, and hopefully my team's like, you know, 6 seed. Oh man, they may have a chance this year. It's just really, and last year, you know, UD, I think really had a chance to make it, and then they cut that season short, you know, the tournament. That was killer, man. You turn off the NBA Finals, stop the World Series, you know, NHL, anything. Don't keep March Madness. Don't do the college football. And I know guys are the big college football, but like I was like the one thing is like March Madness, man. Yep. I mean, that was the one thing I was really upset about. I was like, I look forward to that every year, and just watching it, you know.
And Dayton's been, I mean, pretty good the past few years. Besides, I think they had 1 year that was a little off. I remember 4 or 5 years ago they made it to the Elite Eight.
They did. They did to the Elite Eight, and you know, it's so.
And I've seen pictures of Dayton as a whole. The whole city there was just.
Oh yeah, they would have rioted.
Yeah,
a positive riot.
And it was good. I didn't see anything too crazy happening. Just a lot of people having fun.
You know what? I misspoke. Dayton wouldn't do that. Dayton's not. They're not like destructive.
No,
I went to school there.
But when the Eagles won the Super Bowl,
they ripped that place down. Philadelphians are a different story. Philadelphians are a different story. If the Eagles make the playoffs, I think they may riot.
That's awesome.
Have you heard of a place called McGillen's Old Ale House?
Oh yeah, McGillen's.
In Philly?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had them on the podcast.
Did you have McGillen's on the podcast?
Chris Mullins, yeah.
It's an honor to be on the same podcast as the McGillen's. McGillen's is a great bar. It's been around for. Did he say how long it's been around?
160 years.
Yeah. You had McGillen's. That's so great, man. That's amazing. I mean, you look at a bar like that, and you know, 160 years. That's like, you know, I don't know how many generations. Got to be 4 or 5 at this point.
Yeah,
that's incredible, man. Congratulations on getting McGillen's to go to your bar.
I used to get pony beers at the McGillen's. I would buy. Used to have Rolling Rock pony beers, and we used to buy them. They were like 6 ounces. And they were like I think they were like a 50 cents or 75 cents a piece, maybe $1 a piece. And we would drink them and have fun. And McGillen's is great. It's a staple. It's a Philadelphia staple.
That's awesome.
Great spot. That's cool. You had McGillen's on there. I'm gonna look them up right after the podcast.
Man, they're so cool.
They're good people.
Great people. Great story. And then obviously the 160 years of history. I mean,
wow.
The podcast could have went on for hours.
It could have. You probably could have done 3 episodes
literally
on McGillen's.
Wow. No, one of the coolest experiences that I got was I called down to a place in Atlanta, and I had messaged them on social media, and it's just like, hey, like I saw that you guys are mutual friends with one of these other places that we've done a podcast with, and of course the Game Bar is from Atlanta. They were one of the first guests we had on, and this was right at the beginning of COVID. And so I called down there, and he picked it up, and I told him who I was. And before I even introduced myself as the host of the show, it's like, oh, you run that one podcast, don't you? And I was like, yeah, like, how'd you know? And he's like, yeah, man, like, we love your shit. It's fire.
Wow.
And so that was the first time I got on the phone with this guy, and I said my name, and he's like, yeah, like, I know who you are. And it was crazy.
Wow. That's incredible. That's it's you guys are really building up a great platform. I'm telling you, man.
We're doing our best. Talking about a Joystick down in Atlanta.
They were mutual friends with Joystick. It was called the Whiskey Project.
Cool.
And
They also had mentioned in the show, like, they're kind of like it is here, like all the owners know each other, like they all talk, they all
great.
Make sure everything, they have good laws, for the beers and beverage. I know a lot of cities are trying to get the open container.
Yeah.
Because like you said, in the outside, they like people being outside. So a lot of the places down there in Madison too, or in Tennessee, they were trying to get like open container too. So
wow.
It's a nationwide thing.
You talk to all these people from all over the nation, and most of them that we've talked to, they have like their own community. It's like, it's like Atlanta, Georgia, but then you also have like Fayetteville, Arkansas, and then you have like Madison, Tennessee, and then you just have like all these like not weird, but just like unusual communities that you wouldn't think of when you think of like a hotspot for restaurant and dining, because like I feel like the South really does get overlooked often.
Yeah,
in that regard.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
In Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, they have like a really quaint like little community there, and it's so cool to just like learn about all these different places
that are all kind of doing their own thing. Right?
Yes, but at the end of the day, it's so like community driven. It's
really nice.
Yeah, it's just a weird relationship because it's like they all have like the same goal of bettering the community through like, what they provide. Yeah, but then everybody has like a little bit of a different approach to it.
Yeah, I think as a whole, America is a place that offers opportunity, and I know there's people that would debate that, but if you go drive by these cities, and everyone is trying to get on the map, and I think that's what I really do love about America is when you drive through places and you go to Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is trying to do their thing, and they're trying to now. It's like you have this new generation of people, these that are coming in. They're investing into Jackson. Like people want to stay in Jackson. People want to stay in Toledo. People want to stay
Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah, Manhattan, and you drive, and Manhattan, Kansas is now you can get a great meal and a great craft cocktail, and you can go by this. But and I think your guys' podcast is you're seeing that, like you're seeing, hey, it's not just in major cities, and that's what I love about what's going on in our country is that it's not about New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. It's more about living in these places and building up your own little cities and building up these lifestyles. So you don't have to live in large cities. You can live where you grew up and still have all the trappings of what a major city can offer. And I love it. I love that now you can travel to places like, Jackson, Mississippi. I was talking to a buddy of mine today about like Little Rock, Arkansas, you can go to these places and have cool experiences. And there's people there that you guys are meeting that are really like trying to do something good and trying to build up a culture. And that's great. And that's how it should be. And I'm glad that's the way it is. And it's going to attract transplants. People will move to Jackson, Mississippi. People will be like, you know what? Jackson's great. I'm going to move there. Right. And they'll go to places like that and you'll get transplants and you want new people to explore your city, but you also want the people that are in your city now to start, to be a part of it as well too. I don't think you want to kick anyone out that's there now, and you want them to be like, hey, listen, we need you too. We need you to invest in it too. So I think it's amazing you guys have had a podcast that's been able to kind of take you there.
Yeah.
It's great.
It feels like we're almost have been to each city we've done a podcast with because they do such a great job explaining what the vibe of the city is, what like drinks they serve, what food they serve. Like it just gives us a huge glimpse into every city.
It's so cool. I want to touch on that too. One of the things that we found from like our analytics, a lot of the people that we have on the show, like after having them on the show or like right before, they'll listen to a podcast and they're repeated listeners because once they hear it before we record, they're like, oh, I get what this is about now. Like I really want to be a part of it. Then they do their podcast and then they like look forward to the following weeks where they can learn about other like epicenters around the United States.
Wow.
And it's like a really cool like learning community.
Yeah.
And taking like the best parts from here and there, and then how can you incorporate it into your business and then maybe be innovative in a new spot in the United States.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. Like I learn a lot from other businesses. I know when I travel in other hotels, when I stay in rooms and I look at collateral, I look at what people are doing. I mean, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I do it all the time. And I think I've learned a lot from restaurants, especially independent restaurants. They seem to be always on the creative pulse. They seem sometimes to do something you'll find incredibly creative just out of necessity. I remember being in a bar in West Virginia, and I remember them serving me. They cut the tops off wine bottles, and then used them as candles for the tables. And I thought, did you buy these? They're like, no, we just didn't want to buy candles. So we cleaned them, sanitized them, cut them in half, sawed them down, polished them. Now they're candles. And I remember thinking like, yeah, you probably saved yourself like a few $100. And now you have these really cool looking candle holders that, you know, that were your wine bottles. And that was like one of the first notions I had was like, you know, like that's creativity out of necessity, as I said. And I think you can learn a lot from, you know, like the chalkboard style that came from independent restaurants. That came from somebody saying, you know what, we don't want to print the menu every day. We're going to write on the chalkboard because we don't know what the menu is. But we're going to figure it out. That we're going to figure out the night before, the day of. We're going to figure out what we want. And also, we may have a special. We only have a few, so we can't permit. So we're just going to write on a chalkboard. And you see chalkboards all over restaurants, and especially like in corporate settings, where like that came from somebody. That idea, you know, that's creativity out of necessity. And I've always gone into restaurants, small restaurants, as I said, and try to learn as much as I can. And you talk to these owners, and they're always real matter of fact with you. And to be honest with you, what I like about independent restaurateurs, always really open and always willing to share. You know, they're not trying to hide anything. You know, they're going to tell you exactly why they did it. They're going to tell you what's going on. And, you know, they're real honest and truthful and hardworking people. And they're some of the best people that you'll meet is restaurant owners, real involved restaurant owners, not just owning a business and letting someone run it, like someone that's running it every day. You know what I mean? And you guys are probably talking to people like that.
Yeah, we really couldn't have picked like a better niche. You said it. They're very open. They're very straightforward. Matter of fact, they'll tell you how it is. Yeah. But they also have like a creative spark to them that every person's unique in that regard. Yeah. And how they're being innovative. And yeah, I just really like that we somehow stumbled upon this.
Yeah, but exactly what they did, you know, what they did well and some of the stuff they didn't do so well along the way. They're very open about both those.
Yeah. I think it's great, you know. You guys will continue to meet some really wonderful people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, we had to adjust on the fly a little bit. First time we met, we really weren't doing that many, we weren't doing like many remote podcasts.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I think you were our 7th or 8th.
Yeah, it was pretty early.
Yeah, so most of them were in person. So we've had to get pretty good at communicating, you know, through Skype or Zencaster.
It's a different vibe.
It is 100%. Really
it's great that you guys have kept it going, and you know, you'd like to do them all in person, but then your bills would be pretty high.
Yeah, no, exactly. When we do go in person, they can get high sometimes.
Yeah, like I said. But if you get a corporate jet, you guys could be everywhere.
Well, our goal is to after COVID is over, do a little tour of a lot of the places we've been to.
That's a great idea.
It might take a pretty decent while at this point.
It could, but you'll probably, it sounds like you guys are going to some really cool spots, which is really great.
Yes, sir.
I know. Frankie's excited for some of the Canada ones we are going to go visit.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, well, closer, I guess, right?
That's one in Toronto, one in Quebec.
One in Windsor. And actually, there's 2 in Quebec.
Okay, yeah. Anything else you'd like to mention about the Heights? Anything that's been going on? Any future things people can look forward to?
Yeah, plug some events.
Oh, okay, sure. So we do our new winter hours are posted. They're Monday through Thursday from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m. And then Friday we're open 12 to 9. Saturday 10 to 9. And then Sunday we do our Great Sunday Brunch, which is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Some upcoming events we're going to have. We have New Year's Eve coming up. So that's in January. We have that event upstairs. It's a private event up here. And then we're doing a cellar wine dinner, which is going to be downstairs in the Brim House. And they're both available to book on eventbrite.com. And we're working on a beer fest. We're working on potential doing an outdoor beer fest where we'll bring out about 10 vendors and all local Ohio craft beer and try to do a beer fest. We're trying to work and see where we can do that with COVID restrictions and social distancing, but it's something we're looking to do outside, hopefully after the new year. So that's kind of the next thing, is to keep that running, and we'll keep moving and adjusting with whatever the restrictions are, guys. And I think that's what everyone's doing. But one thing we'll do here is we won't stop trying to come up with ideas and to bring people out and to improve the experience. We'll just adjust to whatever the restrictions are and keep on going. And I think that's the mindset you got to have, for the next year at the very least. To be honest with you,
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Until next time.
Thank you,
sir.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.